as James O'Keefe catches a Disney executive on camera saying that they want more representation of women dressed as men and men dressed as women at the parks. A new article out of WDW says that they are now casting the Little Mermaid stage show, and they're doing just that. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter from That Park Place, and here with me is not only VashSky, but a new writer from That Park Place, Marvin, the movie monster. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Oh, hello. Glad to be on the team officially now. You know, I've just kind of been like a guest here and there, but like to actually be writing for the site now and to actually be a part of the team, I mean, amazing. I could not be happier with it.
We are so glad to have you aboard, and you're an excellent writer. This is the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand. Marvin is not only a hilarious wit, but also has a way with words. Unfortunately, we will not be using one of his articles yet today, but there is more on that to come here on That Park Place. Let's talk about this twofer here. First of all, this article by John F. Trent, Disney executive, admits he wants children to see LGBTQ content. This from July 3rd. That right there is a picture of Nina West. And here, Amit Gurnani, a creative marketing director at the Walt Disney Company, shared his desire to push content on children. This is from the second episode of Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. That's one is getting a season 3, by the way, over there on Disney Plus. During an undercover sting conducted by James O'Keefe and his O'Keefe Media Group, one of O'Keefe's journalists said, despite those kind of people that want to discuss Disney and doing the brooming action, but it's obviously not that. We're changing the words a little bit here. But I also want children to see LGBTQ content. Don't you agree? Gurnani responded, yeah, of course. That is the unspoken thing. As you can see here, there is a different name that Gurnani goes by Genie there in person. That's usually not the Genie that I associate with the Walt Disney Company. With this Genie, I suppose there is a difference between now we have another Genie that we need to keep track of, not just the Genie in the My Disney Experience app or the Genie Plus in the My Disney Experience app. Now we also have Genie Gurnani that we have to keep track of. So the claim, by the way, and you can go read the article over on That Park Place, the claim that is made by this person sitting across the table from a O'Keefe Media Group reporter that they hooked these people up on Bumble, which is a dating app with a very specific interest on it. In this case, the person, Genie, was hired. They claim to be hired specifically because this person is very influential in the community of men who dress as women on a regular basis. Did you guys see this video? I know that you talked about some of it on That Park Place, so I actually do know that you have seen this video. Do you have any base level reactions before we go into what's dropped over the weekend?
We covered the entire video on that Park Place, and I think the initial reaction was, yes, this is definitely going on within the Walt Disney Company, but that is not necessarily shocking to the large majority of us, simply because we kind of knew this stuff was going on. I think I said at the time as well that James O'Keefe was saying that, hey, this person wants to see men dressed as women in Disneyland, and obviously that's something that Ginny wants, but he was implying that it wasn't happening already, and we know from our coverage on That Park Place that is absolutely already happening. There are already people at the front of, like, Magic Happens, for example, at Disneyland that are men dressed as women. Also, too, we know that the Disney look has changed considerably, allowing men to dress in women's costumes, or costumes that were prior to that Disney look change set aside for women exclusively.
My take on it was just that I think Genie was holding back a bit because, like you said, Vash, they're already doing this. Like, it's not like oh yeah, that'd be great to see in the future, but like without overtly saying like, yeah, no, we're already like, you know, onto like stage 2 of the plan to do this. Like, it's already happening.
That's a very good point. Gurnani revealed a current project he was working on. So big current projects that will take up the rest of 4 or 5 months will be Pride. We'll have a Pride campaign across Disney and television. I don't know what he means by Disney here, but I would assume he means the parks, because he also discussed how Disney has their Pride nights in the parks. These just happened not long ago. I'm not sure what they brought on the program yet, but they just started doing these Pride nights. Last year was the first one. Before this, every Pride night was a third party in partnership with Disney. I think that is also revealing here that the gay days, if I can use that term, it was supposed to be unofficial Disney, that it wasn't something Disney had a part in planning.
Yeah, it was fan created like Dapper Day was, but they were like peripherally supporting it, but it was still supposed to be run outside of the company. Like the way Dapper Day, I believe, is still run outside the company.
Right. And in the same way that if a vlogger or something would choose to have a meetup like inside the park, that would immediately get you kicked out of the park. It might not get you trespassed, although those rules might have changed in the more recent years here. But generally speaking, third parties are not allowed to do things like this unless they are approved by Disney. Obviously, there's a difference between a large organization and a social media person here. Now, whether or not people believe that this person is, well, let's say talking out of one side of their face or the other in order to impress their date, some of the other O'Keefe videos have indicated that maybe the second guy made a few claims about what you have to do in order to advance in the company. He said that you had to be Jewish or white in order to advance within the company, which even looking at Disney's slate of executives, that shows that maybe is not the case. I think maybe he was speaking out of his own prejudices, perhaps. I don't want to say anything about the guy specifically, but
that was how I took it personally. I said it right away. I was like, this seems like a personal held prejudice. It doesn't seem like reality.
In the video itself, James O'Keefe actually did mention that it's like, oh, this is a claim that might not even necessarily be true. So at least in part 3, he did kind of clear the record. At least a
he
little bit
didn't
there
mention that in the second one. I think what we were saying on that pod place was that we think that he maybe got a little bit of feedback from everybody that watched it and decided to clarify himself in the third one.
Yep.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to give James O'Keefe too much of a hard time, but at the same time, we're reporting on a regular basis. I don't want to sound like sour grapes because he said the same thing. He obviously used a video that we promoted heavily because it was part of our reporting here on that park place to talk about a male performer who dressed as the evil queen at character meet and greet over at the. So this has been happening at Walt Disney World. Specifically there. He used the video that was part of our coverage. There are other people who obviously took that video and promoted it without attaching that park place to it. I'm not trying to say anything about the system here. Maybe we would have liked credit there, but it did get covered in larger outlets, and we're appreciative of all of those larger outlets here. There were some moments where I thought, if you have seen this video, you have knowledge of the story already, but he's presenting it as if it's the first time. Well, here we are. Not only did we already know that they are casting Luisa from Encanto and they are saying female or female presenting? Now they're getting even more explicit with it. This story out of WDW News Today from Katie Francis: Disney Park opens the Little Mermaid casting call to biological males and also women. I'm trying to be careful in YouTube's system here. Disney Hollywood Studios, so we're confirming this is Walt Disney World Resort in Orlando, Florida, opened a casting call for the upcoming The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure production, to biological men and women. Disney opens the Little Mermaid casting call. The new show, which is replacing Voyage of the Little Mermaid, is searching to fill roles including leads Ariel and Eric. A call for auditions in New York revealed that the casting is explicitly inclusive of biological men, non-biological women, and women. In the past, the listings would state man or woman without specifying whether or not the individual had to be, and we won't say the slur here, but you can read it on the screen. Right here, a Little Mermaid musical adventure, vocalists and actors, New York auditions, venue, Animation Courtyard Theater. Man, I do like the Star Wars stuff myself, but I do miss that whole animation experience that used to be there. Yeah, so if you're reading this, by the way, and you qualify, you have until July 10th to respond. We are casting for full-time contracts, potential relocation assistance. Ariel, 18 to 30 years old, white woman. Well, that's not inclusive. Could also include a non-biological woman, 5'2" to 5'6". Well, that's exclusive there. Spirited, fun-loving yet curious mermaid princess who longs to be a part of the human world. Lyrical pop soprano and belt to see. I love that, actually. It's been a long time since I've read a line like that. Yeah. Eric, 18 to 30 years old, white man, biological women accepted, 5'10" to 6 foot. Oh, well, All right. Charismatic and fearless, Prince Eric is a true romantic who never gives up on his heart's desire, non-singing role. So I guess they are being a little bit exclusive in the pronouns. And too bad we won't get a singing Eric. Storyline, well, we all know the storyline of Little Mermaid if we're here watching this channel, most likely. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's all the details we're going to gather from this article here. But guys, this is new territory for Walt Disney World Resort there in Orlando.
Yes.
It certainly is, and I think it is only the first step in a more open route of things to come. I think I said to you guys privately that I think by this time next year we're going to start seeing the walk around princess meet and greet characters are going to be any gender. I think this is only the tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
This is fascinating to me because it's off-putting to some guests, and I'm not speaking for all people, but here we are not planning to go to Disney out as a family for quite some time now. One, it's ridiculously expensive, and two, I'm not sure that you get the value for your money. But Disney makes a lot of money for character meet and greets right now, and this is a part that alienates it from certain audiences. In the same way that, and I'm not speaking about these other cultures or judging these other cultures, Disney will tailor to specific cultures that they are in. And I know that in Orlando, they have an international audience. I don't think that they are paying the same attention to the difference in culture between Southern California and the very red state of Florida here.
Not only that, but when you're casting for Anaheim, you are dealing with that Southern California local crowd. Walt Disney World is, or at least was, the premier vacation destination in the world. At any given time, you've got people here from just about every country in the whole world. And, I can't imagine somebody from, a family from the Middle East or a family from, certain more conservative parts of Europe are going to, or Russia or China are going to really enjoy what they be offering up here. I mean, we don't know whether or not they're actually going to cast somebody who's not a biological woman in a role like as Ariel or something like that, but it's a possibility. And I don't think they've really thought that through all the way, which I used to be like, of course they thought it through. They're Disney, they know what they're doing. After Tiana's Bayou adventure, I no longer think that they actually think things through.
Well, the other thing that's interesting here, you can't go after them for saying that they're being exclusive as far as gender here, because it specifically states that it has to be a biological man that believes he is a woman in this case. So even if it is a man who just wants to play the female role just for the part, they're presumably excluding them from this case. I'm trying to play nice with the guidelines here at the same time.
I understand.
There's a difference between, for instance, the evil queen role, and I don't want to reveal too much about how much we left out of our articles and coverage for that. But when we covered that, we specifically said this is a male performer that is playing a female role. We left no other details here. We said nothing about this person's preferences or this person's personal life. I think that this actually gets exclusive in some funny ways from that. Maybe that's nitpicking on the company here. They're being inclusive while being exclusive in another way. Another thing that they point out is the height requirements for these roles, which makes it exclusive for some men and women who might want to play either of these roles here.
I don't know. See, I identify as a 6 foot tall person, so I think I should be considered for Prince Eric.
But you at the top limit of Prince Eric, right?
The fact that I'm a 3 foot tall orange monster, no, honestly, I was completely not shocked by this. The only thing that surprised me, like legitimately surprised me this entire thing, was that they said white woman for Ariel.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And from a marketing perspective, I guess that shows a lack of faith in the most recent live action remake.
Remember, Disney started playing around with roles and who necessarily portrayed characters with Frozen live at the Hyperion back in 2016, when they allowed for performers of different races than what would normally be portrayed for the roles of Elsa, the roles of Anna, and so forth. And I think some of this has to do with, obviously the progressivism of the entire company, but also too, I think some of it has to do with maybe the talent pool available in Florida for these roles specifically. It's not necessarily as deep of a pool as maybe you get, next to Hollywood and Anaheim. So that's kind of, I think, playing out here too. It's just, Like Marvin said, though, I think this is going to go further than what we are seeing today. And yeah, maybe that is a little bit of an indictment on the Little Mermaid live action film that came out. They expressed very early on that this was going to be more on the animated film.
Disney character meet and greets are a big deal for this company. They make a lot of money for the character breakfast, the character lunch, character dining. You can easily, we even know from the Evil Queen story that guy paid $300 just for that meal, not including the tip, which I'm going to point out that even though that guy was deeply offended, he still left a pretty good tip. We did see the receipts on that one. So this is Disney standing up for a belief, either in spite of the fact that they know they're going to lose money on this, or they are so blind that they think that inclusivity to a fault is going to make them more money. This is something that we're seeing indications that even the Wall Street Journal is saying, hey, DEI was supposed to give us all of this money that we weren't getting, but it turns out it pushed us in the opposite direction. With that, we want to throw this to our commenters here. What do you think about this situation? Will this be a financial boon to the Walt Disney Company, or is this going to drive even more traffic over to Universal? Thank you so much for being here. Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media account.